Ice guys finished first. That all-star game was cursed. Goalposts getting hit left and right about all the time. All right. Disclaimer before we begin our first edition of the after the all-star break of the Ice Guys. One, that'll be the only time you hear me sing on this show today. And two, that'll be the only time I reference that crap-ass all-star game I watched on Sunday. And be thankful on both counts. Welcome to the SBR NHL Ice Guys. It's Tuesday, January 30th. I'm Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review, back from the break, ready to talk NHL hockey, ready to get real hockey back in action once again. The regular season resuming the second half, joined by Andrew McGinnis and Alex B. Smith. Dana Lane supposed to be with us as well, having tech issues. Hopefully he'll be able to join in at some point later in the show. Guys, let's get quick thoughts from you. Andrew, back from the break, second half, ready to go, rested, refreshed, revitalized, reinvigorated, all of that stuff. How are you feeling as we hit the second half, Andrew?
I'm feeling really good, Ian. I feel like I have some kind of, you're just re-energized, and it's kind of, more exciting right now. You feel like the second half is coming. Like when I saw Alex's tweet earlier on about how it's the race to the Stanley Cup playoffs, it kind of lightened me up a little bit and gave me some energy here. And this is when it starts to get down to business now, and teams are going to start to have to really try and prove who they are and make some serious statements over these next couple weeks. So I'm really looking forward to it. It feels like I missed hockey, and it was only a couple days, guys. So let's get right back into it.
Alex B. Smith, you feel the same way? Ready to go with this second half of the regular season? The drive for the push for, isn't that what NBC always calls it? The push for the playoffs? I guess it begins now. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, it's always great to get, a couple of days off, a couple of good nights of sleep in your belt. And then now you look at, I was looking back the other day when I posted that tweet last night. I was looking back the last couple of years heading into the All-Star break. This is more than likely going to be the tightest playoff run in the league history. I mean, you got, we look at that Metropolitan Division. You got 5 points separating second place from last place. I mean, it's going to be, just absolute insanity from here on out. We got games every single night. Big matchups, every point counts here. It's how can we say at the end of January, when have we ever been able to say that every point counts from now until April? So it's going to be a lot of fun, and hopefully we can, make some profit off of that in these next couple of months.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you got a bunch of teams that are just right on that periphery of postseason play. So it's going to make for a very, very exciting second half of this. As always, I mean, this is no stranger. This is nothing new or different. The playoff races usually are very tight, right down to the wire in a lot of cases, right to the last, couple of days of the season. There's playoff positioning up for grabs. So wouldn't surprise me one bit to see more of the same here this season. Let's begin. This is a big card. How many games have we got? We've got 12 on the slate. Let's begin with New Jersey Buffalo. I know Toronto's one of the teams that does not start until tomorrow. Philadelphia as well. They play tomorrow. And there's not many teams. San Jose as well tomorrow, Detroit, but everybody else pretty much in action here in this Tuesday night card. So let's begin with New Jersey Buffalo, top of the card, 1-2 on the rotation. No line here in this game. Before we begin and talk about all the games, I went back and looked yesterday, spent some time saying what trends, what things do we see usually coming out of the All-Star break, that first game after the break. From a side perspective, nothing significant in terms of, does the home team win more? Does the road team win more? Nothing really. I mean, you're looking at 50 to 60% both sides, home teams and road teams coming out of the All-Star break. It's totals where we do notice something, not just a little something very significant in terms of totals coming out of the All-Star break. Last year, first night of the All-Star break, the over, 11-2-1 in the 14 games played. 2 seasons ago, the first night coming out of the All-Star break, the over, 9-2-1 in the 12 games played that night following the All-Star break. If you go back further, it evens out a little bit more. Not quite as much of a huge push toward the over in seasons previous to that, but still slightly more overs than unders in most years prior to the last 2 seasons, where it was a huge difference, huge night of overs both of the last 2 seasons in that first night coming out of the All-Star break. But still, we're noticing a little bit of a trend and a theme developing here the last several years. The first night of the All-Star break, goaltenders aren't sharp. There is, by the way, a drastic drop in goaltender save percentages the first night, first start after the All-Star break. That's part of it. sloppier defensive hockey. Teams just aren't locked in. They're coming off playing. Some of these players that were in the All-Star game were coming off playing pond hockey, basically. Now you got to lock in again at the defensive end of the ice. Not easy. It's tricky. It's hard. And now you're seeing the results of that end up being this huge push toward overs in the first night after the All-Star break, particularly the last 2 seasons where it's really been insane. Last 2 seasons, as I mentioned, what are we looking at? We're looking at 24 and 2. 24 and 2 to the over the last 2 seasons overall, the first night of the All-Star break. So that's definitely something you want to keep in mind. For me personally, I don't blindly bet trends like this, but it certainly gives me pause, I should say, for looking at unders on a night like tonight. So something you definitely want to keep in mind. Totals is where I have noticed a massive trend unfolding here in terms of the first night of the All-Star break as opposed to sides. So what does that mean now for New Jersey Buffalo? Well, for Buffalo, it's actually a team that played maybe their best hockey of the whole damn season. There hasn't been a lot of periods of the best hockey of the season for the Buffalo Sabres this year, but boy, they had it. When you go on that Western Canadian road swing, we expect some elite teams maybe to go on a 3-0 sweep through the Western Canadian road trip. Not the Buffalo Sabres, not the woe-begotten Sabres, but they were able to do it. 2-1 at Calgary, 5-0 at Edmonton, 4-0 at Vancouver. Back-to-back shutout wins for this Buffalo Sabres team. Really impressive stuff. But All-Star break hits. And does that throw off some rhythm and some momentum and some confidence that this team was finally, after months and months, starting to gain? That remains to be seen. So very, very tricky. You know how I feel about a little bit of a break disrupting teams that were playing well going into the break. I'm a little worried for them coming out of the break. That being said, we've got a massive discrepancy here in terms of performance level of these two teams with extended rest. Buffalo's just 1-4, 3 or more days rest this season. New Jersey 5-2, 3 days rest or more this season. So a big edge there for the Devils in terms of totals. New Jersey's actually trended 4-2 under the total, 3 days of rest or more. Buffalo 2-2. So nothing significant on the Buffalo side. Slight edge to the under on the New Jersey side. So nothing major to talk about there. Interesting game. Again, I got to side with the fact that, again, my theory is Buffalo playing well going into the break. I don't like the break throwing off the momentum a little bit. It's New Jersey or pass for me in this game, but we know New Jersey's not going to come cheap in this hockey game. You're likely going to have to lay the puck line if you're going to get involved on the Devils side. So my lean is Jersey, maybe the puck line, but in the end, it's probably not going to be a game that I end up looking at or getting involved with. When it's all said and done. Dana's made it. Dana, good morning. Welcome back from the All-Star break. Looks like you survived the tech hell that sometimes can engulf us on mornings.
I don't know what I don't know what happened. I'm sitting here at 5:45 thinking, man, I am ahead of the curve. They're going to be so happy with me. I barely got my hair combed and yet nothing. So, but here I am, and I'm sure it was my fault.
Well, we're glad you made it. We're all accounted for. I was saying this is the first show of the break. How can one of us be missing? Now I don't need to worry about that, so I'm thankful for that. Ottawa, Carolina, 3-4. Carolina minus 175. Home chalk here. The total 5.5. Shaded to the under in this game. Again, when you look at it, Ottawa again is a team that really concerns me as far as I can see. This is a team that's really had a really poor month of January. A team that just has not. I think they realize what's coming for the Ottawa Senators. They know there's going to be a active seller at the trade deadline. They know this team right now, as it looks, ain't going to be what it looks like in a few weeks from now, and it's starting to settle in. It's been a real rough go for Guy Boucher's team. I know people. This is one of those situations where if it was a team that's like Ottawa, struggling going into the break, maybe you make a case for them coming out of the break. But even for Ottawa, it's very difficult to do that. Just find ways to lose games on a 5-game losing streak going in to the All-Star break. Definitely no sign of confidence right now. And then you look at what they've done on 3 days rest or more. Again, I pay attention to these extended rest statistics way more on a day like this than I would otherwise. And we see Ottawa at 1-6 on the season when they've had extended time off. So that's not good. So that's not a team I'm looking to support. Now, can I get behind Carolina 3-2 in that situation with 3 days rest or more? Yeah, I mean, this is another game where I was looking Carolina, but again, you're looking -175 here in this game. You're not getting any sort of bargain whatsoever. Carolina went into the break snapping a mini 2-game losing streak. Although you lose to Vegas and Pittsburgh, it's no big deal. It's nothing to be ashamed about. They bounced back from that with a really wild game against Montreal. 6-5 it ended, and Carolina was able to pull out the victory in that game. Their offense came to life for sure, and that's a positive sign for this Carolina team because they've been dealing with the absence of leading scorer Sebastian Aho now for quite some time. He's a great young player, the Finnish forward. It's been fantastic for Carolina. He's missed the last several games with a concussion. He's questionable right now. Is not known if he's going to be back tonight. There's a possibility, but that remains to be seen. Something you want to check out for morning skate type of deal after the morning skate. By the way, for these Eastern games, usually 10:30 a.m., 11 a.m. Eastern time. That's usually when they happen. So it's following that. The coaches will speak to the media. A lot of times they'll update player injuries and situations like that. Unless, of course, you're the hoodie Bill Belichick in the NFL, where you don't say jack shit about stuff like that. But it's one of those situations where Bill Peters might update the status of Aho following the morning skate this morning, so keep an eye out for that. But again, I want no part of Ottawa, so it's Carolina or pass here. You got to play them puck line at this point. It's too heavily priced on the money line to get involved. Florida, New York Islanders, 5-6 on the rotation. We've got the New York Islanders -165, home favorite in this game. The total 6.5. Again, we're not seeing any bargains right now, none whatsoever with this Islanders team from a totals perspective. That being said, I have won no part of the under after cashing an over with Florida Washington before the break. And with all due respect, he's given it his all, but Harry Satteri's not ready for prime time. Okay, this guy's given up 14 goals on 80 some shots in 6 starts or this year. That's terrible. That's horrendous. I mean, he's just been horrific, awful, whatever you want to call it, in between the pipes for Florida. And really, this is a tough situation for the guy. I'm sure, he's not looking at himself as getting starts in the NHL a few weeks ago. Now, Luongo's hurt, Reimer's hurt. Reimer's just putting on IR, by the way, so it looks like his is going to be a long-term thing. He's not been square to the shooter half the time. His post-to-post, side-to-side movement is terrible. He looks like a snail trying to get across the crease on a lot of situations. Harry Satteri, not good at all whatsoever. The Islanders, believe it or not, the overtrains come to a slow down a little bit. It's grinded to a halt just a bit, and the reason is now odds makers have finally caught up. I mean, 6.5. You even saw a 7 for crying out loud in the game against Vegas when that game opened the other night. So, I was looking to make a case for the over here. I think first period over might be a better bet, maybe. We saw Washington jump out. I really take the play to Florida before the break. Harry Satteri, again, I don't trust this guy in net whatsoever. Maybe some early goals here from the Islanders. I'd probably prefer first period over than full game over. Again, 6.5. A little bit more tougher now to get over with the New York Islanders. But, again, that's the only way I'd bet it. I'm scared of any unders right now with this Florida team that's given up 3 goals or more in, 9 straight games. Horrendous defensively, a goalie I don't trust. Perfect recipe for an over, but it's just a question of value. If 6.5 is enough value in your mind, in your own individual mind, to go over the total. Let's go to Andrew. He's involved in the Panthers Islanders tonight. Andrew, what are you looking at here in this game?
Yeah, guys, looking at this card today, I see a lot of massive favorites, and I was looking at a couple games, and this one really stuck out to me as a puck line favorite. I like the Islanders right now, looking to build off a win against the Golden Knights before the break. Held a very offensive team to just 1 goal, and to me, that's huge. I know that Vegas hasn't been the most consistent team about keeping their goal scoring high, but they've started to kind of settle in a little bit. But I think it's still huge. The Islanders held them to just 1 goal before the break, and this is the only meeting between these two teams right now this season. So I think that's kind of an interesting thing when you're kind of playing a team that you only play once, and you kind of want to get that solid win against them right now. And right now, I think the Panthers have been struggling defensively. Their goaltending's always been shaky throughout this entire season. They've been giving up an average of 4 goals in their last 6 games. So to me, against this flying Islanders team that's just so fast and they know how to score the puck, like I said, they've been slowing down the unders, but they still know how to score, and they're a scary team to play against this team right now. And just looking at a couple stats right now, Overall in the season, they're averaging 3.44 goals per game, where Florida's just averaging 2.81. Head-to-head, last 3 games, New York averaging 3.67 goals. Meanwhile, Florida just averaging 2.67 goals versus each other. So for me, I think this is a complete mismatch. And it's like Ian mentioned, the overs are trending massively right after an All-Star break. The over has hit almost more than 75% or gains for both teams on the first game back from an All-Star in the past couple of years. So looking at this and the predictions everyone's seeing, I just think this is going to be a goal affair. And when it's a goal fest, I think that this works in favor of nobody else but the Islanders. So if we can see some solid goaltending out of the Islanders, I think it's not even a close contest. I won't even hesitate to take this Islanders puck line. There's great value in it, and I think it's a good bet against this kind of sloppy Florida Panthers team. Again, it's hard for us to stress it too much to you guys, but the stats sometimes don't lie, and it works such in favor if you look at these stats and think about the trends, because it's true. Coming off this All-Star break, there are going to be some mishaps. There's going to be some sloppiness. There could be some All-Star goaltending as well. You know, we saw some good All-Star goaltending at the All-Star game. We were talking about that pre-show here, but I expect a little bit more of high-scoring games today, and this is one of those games that I see fit to meet that kind of algorithm, and I think it should be maybe a 4-1 type game here for the Islanders in pure dominance. So Islanders puck line for my first pick on the day.
Yeah, I mean, I've got lots of ideas dangling in my mind for this game. I'm looking at maybe Islanders puck line. I like that a lot. I like Islanders team total over a lot with Sateri in net. You know, who's been hurt. He's been awful. I mean, this guy can't play in the NHL. I mean, it's really that bad, I think, with him. I mean, I've seen it now for a few games with him. He's awful. Unfortunately, they got no other choice, though, as I mentioned. And the New York Islanders, they did actually finally get some good goaltending their last game before the break against Vegas. I mean, it was a great performance in net that night from Jaro Halak. 38 saves on 39 shots was terrific. Islanders actually dug in at the defensive end for a change. So it's a question of can Florida score in this game. It depends on what Islander team shows up. That finally showed some defense in that game, or is it the Islander team that, for the most part of the first half of the season, one of the worst defensive teams in the NHL, one of the worst penalty kills in the NHL? Which one do we see? But I'm confident the Islanders get theirs. So yeah, puck line makes sense. Islander team total over makes sense. And from a game total perspective, I'd probably lean more to a first period over in this game than I would the full game over, 6.5. We have seen the Islanders actually, believe it or not, 2 straight unders. They haven't done that in a long, long time, but they have in their last 2 games. Dana Lane also involved with the Panthers and Islanders matchup tonight coming out of the break. Dana, what are you looking at here in Brooklyn?
Yeah, you were right about Halak the other night. I'm telling you, not only was Halak fired up, but the team was fired up to come in here and get a victory against the Golden Knights. They looked pretty impressive, especially defensively, which is not something you can say much about their team very many times. Like you said, there hasn't been too many times where they've had back-to-back unders, but they were pretty impressive at least for one night. I will say this for the Florida side at least, or let me talk about the trend real quick too. I mean, you guys have brought up the over trend, and of course that is an impressive number to the over, but they weren't trying to get over 6.5s. Most of the time they're still trying to get over 5.5s, and so this is a little bit different story in this. This is a Panther team that is 12 points out of first place. So both of these teams are desperately in need of a win. So what do? You always go back to defense when you're in desperation mode. But defense, for me, has never been that big of an issue for Florida. It's always been their offense. And when I talk about offense, of course, we know about the Barkov line that is, fantastic, but I don't see a lot of secondary scoring with this Panther team. You look at Connor Brickley, who was a Golden Knight for a second. This is a guy that, he's in his first full year. He's got a ton to prove offensively. And then you have McCann and Bourbada. McCann was a fantastic player for Sault Ste. Marie, but certainly has not equated that yet to the NHL level. Still needs some seasoning, and Bourbada's bounced around a little bit, is pretty much an average player. So, I mean, outside of those first 2 lines for the Panthers, you really don't have a lot of scoring. But what you do have, what I do like in this game, and one reason why I like the under is I feel like you have a real one of the things that I kind of put together is I know it's kind of difficult in hockey, but I take the time of possession. And do I think that Florida can hold time of possession? Yeah, and I do in this one, and that's good because the Islanders' strength is obviously offensively, but you get a guy like Alexander Barkov that not only is a great face-off guy, and I think could probably get the better of whoever he goes up against, whether it's Tavares or whomever, who is also a great face-off guy. But what's good about Barkov is he's fantastic in his defensive end as well on the dot. So I think Florida can hold the time of possession statistic. They're not very good offensively, but I like them defensively. And if the same Islanders team showed up against the Knights that show up tonight, I don't have any problem going under the total. I think this is a good recipe for an under tonight.
All right, under the total. We're talking about a team that's given up 3 or more in 8 straight. Wow. But all right, under 6.5. Here we go. Florida and Islanders. It is it's a high number. There's no doubt. And we've seen the Islanders go under in 2 straight games. So we'll see if they can make it 3 in a row tonight. But I don't know. Sateri bothers me. We'll see how that one goes. Minnesota, is that it for that game? Alex didn't have anything on that game, right? No. He does have something on this game, by the way. Minnesota-Columbus coming up. 7-8 on the rotation. Columbus, -120. About in that range, -120, -125, home favorite. The total 5.5 shaded to the under in this game. I kind of like the spot here for Columbus, to be honest with you. I'm looking in their direction here a little bit in this hockey game. Minnesota's not a team on the road I trust right now. It's been to be honest with you, it's been really horrible for Minnesota away from XL Energy Center. I don't know what changes here. I know it's only Arizona you beat before the break, Columbus, but it was a win they needed. Bobrovsky was terrific that night, which is good to see because even his plays bobbled a little bit up and down in a lot of games prior to the break. So that was good to see. Yeah, I got no problems with -120 here with Columbus. I think that's the side to look at. I think it's a situation where the Minnesota Wild have been a complete nightmare when you get them outside of their home building, as evidenced by their 9-14 road record this season. That's not very good whatsoever by any stretch of the imagination. So yeah, definitely Columbus -120 side that I will be on tonight in this game. Alex B. Smith, Minnesota Columbus for you. What do you got?
I'm right there with you. I'm looking at Columbus here, and we talked about for the longest with the last month and a half about Columbus missing guys, key players, and now they're finally starting to get some guys back. We see that Cam Atkinson returned back in the final game before the All-Star break. Dubinsky was skating yesterday. I still think he's still got a while back. He's got the fractured orbital bone, and he was infamously sent home from the Vegas trip or whatever. So you still got some guys trying to find their way back in the spot. But Columbus, we mentioned it before the show started about how tight the Metropolitan Division is. 5 points between second place and last place. So, like I said, this is the time of year where even though it's January 30th, every single point counts in that division, whether you're playing within the Metro or anybody for that matter down the stretch. So this is a time where Columbus getting guys back, getting fresh, getting rested, playing a Minnesota team, like I said, that outside of downtown St. Paul, they really don't show up for games. It was a horrible effort they put up against Pittsburgh the other night to end up the break, go into the break rather. The only way I'm looking at this would be Columbus here. Like I said, 120 is a decent price. I think the Blue Jackets come out with a solid effort against a shabby road team in the Wild.
Yeah, shabby is right. I mean, it's the same story with Minnesota. A lot of years I've seen this same pattern play out, and it's been the team that, they rally around that raucous home environment, and then you get them on the road. It's not so good all of a sudden. By the way, these two teams are a dead even 3-2 in situations with extended rest this season, so no edge there either way. Minnesota's actually 5-0 over the total. 3 extended rest coming into this game. Columbus 3-2 to the over. So a little bit of an over angle there if you want to go with obviously the fact that the overs have crushed it in the first night of the All-Star break the last 2 seasons. So just some food for thought, some stats to throw out there. But Columbus is the play for me here in this one. Dana Lane also has Minnesota Columbus on his card for this Tuesday. Dana, what are you looking at here?
Yeah, I wish I had some more friends when I'm picking these games, but I don't get any. And I will say this: I'll preface this play by saying I think Columbus is a fantastic team. In fact, I think Columbus is going to make a ton of noise when it gets to the postseason. But again, first game back, you have to think now. Okay, now we're getting close to the deadline, and we know that Chuck Fletcher is no stranger to making deadline moves, although not many of them had worked out. But you go out and get a Martin Hansel and cross your fingers. fingers. But I mean, that kind of puts everybody on high alert. And I think, with that, do you think you're going to get your best effort tonight out of Minnesota, even though it's on the road? And I think that is going to happen. There is a huge gap right now when you talk about special teams, and I think that's the way that Minnesota's got to win this game tonight. I think Minnesota's special teams are obviously much better than Columbus's, considering Columbus is dead last in power play percentage. But when you look at the difference between the Wild power play and the Columbus penalty kill, there's also a huge discrepancy as well. So I'm not saying that I think Columbus is not the better of the two teams. They definitely are the better of the two teams, but at plus money, at least to me, it's worth a shot when I think that they have a real advantage with the extra man. You look at Zucker and Koivu and Granlund; they've been sensational on their first power play unit, and second power play unit certainly has been pretty good as well. So I think that I think at plus money, at least you take a shot with Minnesota. Certainly not my best bet, but I think they might jump up to bite Columbus tonight.
Yeah, all right. Minnesota on the road for Dana Lane, and you see Bruce Boudreau, a quote from him. This is not a bet on quote. They asked him, what does your team have to do better on the road to change the results? It's hard to put a finger on it. Well, great, coach. You're supposed to know how to fix these things and fix these problems. That's not something I want to hear. That's not some confidence-inspiring quote going on the road. It's hard to put a finger on it. Come on. Give me something better than that, Bruce Boudreau. You're supposed to be the coach of this team and have ideas and ways to get your team out of ruts in a particular situation, and it's hard to put a finger on it? Come on. What are you paying me for?
If common sense and current form were the only way to win games, none of us would be sitting here doing videos.
That's true. I mean, yeah. I mean, he's Dana again. He goes against the grain sometimes, and he's going to hope that Bruce Boudreau did find a way to put a finger on it here tonight and help this Minnesota Wild get a victory in this game. Should be interesting. But again, Minnesota, to me, to take them seriously as a legitimate threat in the postseason, they got to get better on the highway. That's all there is to it. We'll see if tonight they're able to rectify those issues in Columbus. But it's a 2-1 split here. Alex and I looking at the Columbus side and Dana with Minnesota. We've got San Jose, Pittsburgh, next game on the card. 9-10 on the rotation. We've got Pittsburgh laying, as you would expect, big price at home, minus 175 total, 5.5 pretty much across the board here in this game. I don't have much on this one. We've seen the Pittsburgh Penguins really play pretty good hockey for the most part going into the break. I think they finally realized that, hey, if we're going to make a move, we're going to start doing making things right, getting on a run. Now's the time we got to sort of make our move, and definitely they were able to do that. And they did it really with, for the most part, Casey DeSmith in net for a lot of these starts going into the break. Obviously, they got Matt Murray back from his family ordeal. He had a death in his family, which was horrible to hear that, but certainly is expected to be rejoining the team. It's just unclear if he'll be back in the net because, again, you got a situation where you got this young kid, Casey DeSmith, playing so well in between the pipes for the Pittsburgh Penguins, who really played some of their best hockey going into the break. 7-2, the Penguins, their last 9 games. So signs that this team's starting to turn things up a little bit, turn the heat up just a little bit, and get on a run. San Jose with 2 disappointing losses where their defense basically disappeared from them prior to the break. Home losses to Winnipeg and the Rangers, 5-4 and 6-5. Real downer losses for this San Jose Sharks team that's been one of the better defensive teams. I mean, every stat you look at, very good on that side of the puck, the San Jose Sharks, but was not the case in their last 2 games before the break. They gave up 6 to the Rangers, 5 to Winnipeg. We'll see if they can sort of stabilize themselves at the defensive end of the ice. Aaron Dell's been a very, very nice story, but he's sort of maybe playing more games than I think he's accustomed to because Martin Jones has had some inconsistent play. So as a result, Aaron Dell has really seen more of the net than maybe he's used to, and maybe as the workload's increasing on him, he's not been as sharp as late. We'll see if maybe the break comes at the right time here for San Jose to try to right the ship and get back in the win column. San Jose, another team that, actually on the road, they're not bad. They're 500. That's better than some teams, but nothing to write home about either. Extended rest. San Jose is actually 4-2 in this spot with extended rest. Pittsburgh also 4-2. So you got no real big major discrepancies either way. The under 4-2. San Jose extended rest 3-3 over under Pittsburgh extended rest this season. So for me, not a game I'm involved with, but a fascinating one to look at here. Pittsburgh playing good. Again, a little worried about them, though. Those teams that were rolling going into the a break like this sometimes concerns me coming out of it. Anaheim, Boston, 11-12. Nothing here in terms of a line as of yet. We've got the Boston Bruins, another one of those teams that was just playing, excellent hockey going into the All-Star break. No question there. Boston to me is in terms of, like I said weeks ago, Stanley Cup futures. That was the time to jump on them because I really do feel the East is wide open. I don't see any team in the East that's really dominating outside of Tampa. Tampa's obviously the clear favorite. Tampa's that one team that I think has the probably clear cut edge. But then you lump the rest of the teams in that same group, and I don't think there's much difference between the Pittsburghs and the Washingtons and the Bostons. You go on down the list. The Islanders, Toronto. I mean, there's not a massive amount of difference, I think, between the rest of the East outside of Tampa. So it's wide open there for someone to get to an East final when it's all said and done. And that's really all you would be hoping for here for Boston if they're able to get there. But they're doing things the right way. You look at their defensive play going into the break, their 5-game winning streak going into the break, 2 goals or less allowed in each of those games, all of them victories. They're playing well at that end of the ice. No question about that. And the goaltending's been good. Rask's been fantastic. Even Hudobin with the odd start he's gotten has been good in net. No question. It's a Boston team playing very, very well. It looks like they're going to go with Anton Hudobin tonight, by the way. They're going to give Rask a day of rest. He's not injured. They just decided to rest him here for this game. So it looks like Anton Hudobin will get the start. And note that Brad Marchand serving his 5-game suspension here for this game tonight, so he will not be available for the Boston Bruins. And Charlie McAvoy also out on the and he's been an impressive bright light on that Bruin blue line this season. Charlie McAvoy's had a great season. He's going to be out for a little period of time as well. So there are some concerns. There are some absences here for Boston that you do have to be concerned about. And on the flip side, you got the Anaheim Ducks that won 2 straight games going into their break. They beat the Rangers and Winnipeg at home, which is something San Jose could not do. Anaheim was able to take care of business against those 2 teams at home prior to the break. And you look at this series, and this is going to be my live dog of the night here, even though it's very, very difficult to step in front of Boston right now. Anaheim has won 8 straight against the Boston Bruins head-to-head, 8-0. Dominated this Bruin team, and they've actually done well against the Eastern Conference as well. They're 4-0 last 4 games against the Eastern Conference. This Anaheim team as well. So I think just based on the situation, there's a couple key absences. Marchand obviously is huge for Boston. McAvoy's going to be missed because he was playing so well. You're going to be catching a pretty decent price, I would think, here with the Anaheim Ducks, and I'm going to be looking to take that price. I really think it's a good spot. You like the matchup edge that Anaheim's had. They've had a better of it in this head-to-head series. So sometimes you got to look at the price and say, hey, we might have a live dog on our hands. I think we got that here with Anaheim. They're probably going to be plus 135-ish, I think, plus 140 maybe. I think that's probably the range they're going to come out in. I could see Boston being in that minus 150 or so range as a home favorite here. So Anaheim as a dog, I think there's a case to be made for them here. It's a little bit of a tricky situation here for Boston. Again, rolling going into the break. Sometimes that's not the time you want extended rest. So we're going to look at Anaheim here when this price comes out, or at least I am. Anaheim as an underdog when the line becomes widely available here in this hockey game. Next game up, we got Chicago, Nashville, Central Division battle, 13-14. Nashville, minus 170 home chalk. The total 5.5s and 6s, a little bit of both. We've got 5.5 minus 120 to minus 125 at some spots, 6 shaded to the under in others. So make sure you're using SBRodds.com, getting the number you want with whatever total you're looking to bet here in this Hawks Predators game. Chicago, it remains a grind for this hockey team, although they finally had a good game prior to the break. They beat Detroit. It's a nice win, but it's Detroit as well. Let's see what you can do now on the road against Nashville here in this spot. Not going to be as easy for this Chicago team. Not a game I did probably plan on doing a whole lot with from a betting perspective. So I'm going to let Alex as well as Dana take over here, talk about this game. They clearly have a stronger thought on it than I do. Let's go to Alex. Hawks in Nashville tonight. What are you looking at here?
Well, last episode I called out the Hawks, and they showed up with a big 5-1 win on the road. Like you said, it's against Detroit. We're talking about one of the weaker teams in the East. It's not going to do much of anything. But now Hawks coming back. Everybody's rested. Patrick Kane was the only guy who played in the All-Star game, and he didn't really do much of anything in for the Central. So, now if they want to try and make a run, this is obviously you have to start off with beating a good team and a good division team here in Nashville. Nashville's getting back Philip Forsberg most likely. If not tonight, he'll be back within the week. So the team that was missing a lot, one of their obviously the best offensive player. They've been playing well, even though without him, they've won 5 of their last 6 games. So this is gonna be a tough game. I think we've seen these two teams play really tough, even when the Hawks have struggled. We've seen 5 of the last 7 meetings decided by 1 goal. So the Hawks know that this is this is basically one of their biggest rivals, and it's a good team, a team that they're going to have to try to eclipse if they're going to make any kind of run here. Same thing with Nashville; they know it's a team that they can never take lightly in the Hawks because they always tend to show up for them. I mentioned in the chat about how this time of year, from now all the way through into the playoffs, I kind of look at team totals, also kind of look at regulation bets. I think there might be some value here in possibly seeing this game go into overtime. You can find a 3-1 price here. This game be tied after overtime, so let's look for 3-way or regulation spots. That's something I might be looking at here. Maybe put a half unit on, a shot to 3-1. I think the Hawks can play tight defensively. They know they have to tighten things defensively, especially with Anton Forsberg in net, who's played fairly well, except for the one bad spot he had, that 7-3 loss against the New York Islanders. So if they can tighten up things defensively, play rested, play fast, and try and match intensity with Nashville tonight, I think we could see this be a really close game. So I won't be betting anything side or total wise, but I might be looking at possibly with that 3-way play.
All right, looking for a tight game between the Hawks and Predators tonight, and Dana Lane also with talking Chicago, Nashville here on this card. What are you looking at here, Dana? In Music City, as the Predators look to keep on rolling to begin the second half.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Alex. I mean, I think Chicago's gonna. I think they'll come out with a fantastic effort tonight, and they have to because honestly, if they miss the playoffs, I mean, this is gonna be the first time in 10 years that they haven't made the playoffs. And of course, if the season ended today, they'd be out right now. So yeah, defensively, I think that they're gonna show up. And of course, we know that the Nashville Predators always show up. They always buy into Peter Laviolette system, and even though that the Predators have not had the luxury of actually putting their full team on the ice this year, they stay afloat just because they play well defensively. So this total for me is a little bit high, and you guys know I like the bet under, so I kind of look for an under to play. And this one to me kind of stands out because I think Chicago is, in order to stay in this game, I don't think this is going to be a 4-3, 5-4 game. I think this is going to be more of a 3-2 game, and that's where Chicago needs to have it in an effort to come out on top on this. And the other thing too is Pekka Rinne, guys. I know I've ripped on him, and this is a guy that's just, one day he's fantastic, the next day he's not. But fortunately for him, he is on one of those rolls again, and I think I can trust him. I feel good about where Forsberg is. I think at least if he gives a nominal effort, or at least he gives an average effort, I think that we have a shot at cashing this ticket. I think it's going to be close. And I wouldn't be surprised. I don't like when I don't get the halves attached to my total, but I'll take a chance on the under tonight.
All right, under for Dana Lane here in this particular hockey game, Chicago. And hey, he's going right into the beast here tonight of the last 2 years of overs here on this last couple of years. I'm not scared of that. Not scared of that. Means
nothing.
Yeah,
means nothing when you're dealing with sixes and 6.5s.
Yeah, we'll find out tonight. Definitely. You're right. You're also dealing with higher totals. Every total that you look back on the last 2 years coming out of the break was 5 or 5.5. You never had to deal with 6s. You never had to deal with 6.5 like you see in the Islander game. So you do have to also keep that in mind, that we are dealing with in some instances here higher numbers than we usually see here in years past. So very fascinating to watch here what ends up happening in this night tonight, where we've had so many overs that first night of the All-Star break, and not so many. And tonight if that continues or not. We got Tampa, Winnipeg, 15-16 on the rotation. We've got no line here. This is one of the best games of the night, without a doubt. Looking forward to seeing it. Should be a fantastic hockey game. You got Winnipeg, that's been really a stunning story in the first half of the season. The fact that not only we know they've got the tremendous offensive capabilities and potency, and they've shown that even without Mark Scheifele, with Brian Little and Blake Wheeler and Patrick Laine and a tremendous forward group capable of putting the puck in the net. Kyle Connor comes up this season to this Jets team, makes an impact as well. Just a bunch of guys that have the capability of scoring. But it's lately their defensive play that's improved, and it's the play of Connor Hellebuck, who clearly deserved the All-Star to make that All-Star game without a doubt. I mean, he was a guy that was looked at as an afterthought coming into this season. They went out and got Steve Mason to be their number one goalie prior in the offseason, Winnipeg, and he hasn't even been able to get a sniff at the net because Connor Hellebuck's been that good. So fascinating to see Winnipeg, a good first half. Are they able to keep it up here and be in you know what? We'll get back to Andrew. I just realized he was on Nashville, Chicago as well. We'll get back to him in a second with that. Skipped over that. But we'll do that, Andrew, after Tampa Bay, Winnipeg, and then we'll get back to you with Chicago, Nashville. No problem. My bad there. Hey, first day after the break. See, we're a little rusty. Just like some of the players tonight, we're a little rusty, like Kramer with his horse on Seinfeld there. So, yeah, I mean, Tampa Bay, Winnipeg, looking at a situation here where it's a great game. Not going to get involved, though. I like the way where both of these teams are at right now. We know Tampa Bay had a fantastic season so far. First half of the year, Eastern Conference leading the way. Should be a great matchup here tonight. No line as of yet on this game. Likely not going to be involved, but Alex B. Smith might be involved because he's going to talk Bolts and Jets tonight. Alex, what are you looking at here?
Yeah, it's a possibility I could get involved in this game, and it's interesting to note. Like I said, Michael Hutchinson will be playing in net for Winnipeg. He played in the AHL All-Star game, and he got called up, and he's going to get a chance to spell Hellebuck, who's played 12 of the last 13 games, and also he played in the All-Star game, so he could use the rest. And it's interesting to see, will Vasilevsky also get some rest as well, possibly, which means we might have a Louis Domingue sighting. Those two together, I'm thinking I might be looking at possibly with we talked about this over trend. An over might be something worth looking at here. And you got a lot of pieces that are missing now for Winnipeg. Obviously, Jacob Trouba out now 6 to 8 weeks with the ankle injury. That's something to be concerned about. You got a couple of guys possibly coming back. Adam Lowry's upgraded to probable. He's another key piece, a key centerman for the Jets. So, it's going to be an interesting game to watch. I'd definitely be watching. Like I said, it's going to be the best game of the night by far. One guy I actually read on Twitter said he thought that this could possibly be a Stanley Cup preview. I don't think the Jets are that good, but certainly Tampa Bay is the best team in the league. So it'll be an interesting game to watch. But I think if we see a battle of backups here, I might be leaning at looking at playing the over here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is the one thing to keep in mind. Vasilevsky and Hellebuck, not so much looking at an over, but you get Mason and or Domingue or both. Yeah, absolutely. I actually will be on an over if I see that. But again, we don't know that yet. We'll see what the confirmation is later on in terms of goalies, but something you want to keep an eye on. You're right, with Vasilevsky playing on the All-Star weekend, you're just not for sure that you're going to see him right away off the hop, first game out of the break. So something you want to keep in mind. Goalie confirmations. You always want to keep in mind those, but especially on a day like this where you got so many moving parts to deal with. All right, let's rotate back to Nashville, Chicago, because we missed Andrew's take on that game. He's involved in it. Nashville, Chicago, Andrew, what are you looking at here?
Excuse me. Yeah, Ian, I'm looking at the under in this game. I agree with Dana. And look, I understand there are facts about over trends after All-Star breaks. There, you can see everything you want about overs. Chicago is trending very, very heavy on the over. 5 of their last 5 games on the road have gone over. But look, in this game, I think the under is the perfect play. It's gone under in 7 of the last 10 games for Nashville. And I think that Nashville is really going to carry the tempo, carry the momentum in this game, and they're going to project the style of play that this game's going to have. And I think that with Forsberg being in net for Chicago, I think that it's one of those games where actually he's been doing all right, but he has to prove himself. He has to prove himself to his team with Crawford out with an injury right now. And I think Nashville right now, they're kind of getting a little bit more healthy. They're just waiting for their last piece. They're waiting for Forsberg to get back and be healthy. But I think that realistically, this team is so talented, but in close games like this, when it's division rivals and teams that are coming off the All-Star break, they have to be focused, and they're going to be narrowing down. They're not going to want to. I don't think this is one of those games, guys, that the score is going to be run up. I think these are two talented goaltenders that no matter who it is out there right now on the line combinations whatsoever for Nashville, I think that they're going to produce. I think Nashville will win this game. I'm not really comfortable taking the puck line with this because I think the Chicago is going to turn things around in the second half of the season, post All-Star break. Everyone keeps asking what Chicago's going to be doing, if we should fade them, if we should, tail them, look at them these days. I don't really know exactly, but I think that they're going to be competitive. They're going to be a team that we have to take a little bit more seriously. They're not a garbage team. They're not a junk team. I think they're a team we can take a little bit more seriously. They will compete against Nashville tonight. And I think them competing and this being a close game will make it trend towards the under. I think if I was to come on and tell you that Nashville is going to blow out Chicago, I would tell you to go towards the over. But I do think this will be a closer type style game. If anything, I would say maybe it would start a little bit higher scoring in the first period, and then as the game progresses, sort of slow down a little bit. So I'm looking at the under in this game. I agree with Dana that so many people are just hopping on all these overs, especially after this All-Star break. But this is one of those games I think first couple minutes of this game, even these two teams are going to be just feeling each other out. Chicago's still trying to create an identity for themselves. I think this is actually a big game for Chicago, guys. I'm going to be watching this game very closely to kind of see what they can do, see what the Hawks really have to show for themselves. Because I think, like I've been saying over the past couple episodes, I think this Nashville team is a very serious team. I think this Nashville team will end up back in the Stanley Cup. And I think that tonight will really show us kind of how lopsided they are versus this Hawks team. So for me, a close game usually trends towards the under, and I think this is going to be a tight matchup for tonight. So I'm looking at the under Hawks and Preds.
All right, under Hawks and Preds, and you want your dynamite stat of the day, I guess you could say. I went and looked actually while Andrew was talking here with this Tampa Bay situation. In non-Vasilevsky starts this year, that means with either Budaj or Domingue in net, 8-1 to the over. There you go, 8-1 to the over. So there you go. Sign me up. If he's not in there, I'm looking over Lightning and Jets. Bank, you can book that one. Montreal, St. Louis, next game up. No line here. Not on Montreal. Don't like this team whatsoever. That's a terrible loss going into the break. Again, they seem to, when they score 5 goals, they find a way to lose. How many times has that happened this year to the Montreal Canadiens? They actually break out offensively like they did against Carolina, but they give up too many. And they end up losing. That's what happened to them final game before the break. Now they're playing the St. Louis team, which Jaden Schwartz is back. That's big time. That is big time because you look at the record of the St. Louis Blues with Schwartz and without him when he was injured. It's night and day. This guy was missed. He was missed dearly. He's back now, and St. Louis is a much better hockey team with him on the ice. There is no question about that. You've got Montreal and their horrible 8-14 road record. Yeah, there's no way, none, zero, that I play St. Louis or that I play Montreal here in this game. It's absolutely St. Louis or pass. Unfortunately, they're going to be pretty highly priced. So St. Louis or pass. Maybe you bet them team total over, maybe something like that puck line, but St. Louis or nothing for me there. LA Dallas 19-20 on the rotation. We've got Dallas minus 200, home favorite against this LA team, which did not play well. Going into the break, total 5.5 shaded to the under. Really, it fell apart for LA for the most part here in the month of January. It's not been a kind month to them. We'll see if the break recharges their batteries. They're going to have to hope because the offense dried up. Defensively, not quite as good down the stretch in recent games either. So we'll see if the break gets them going again because they need something to get them out of their funk that they had going into the break. LA Dallas, Alex B. Smith on this game. Alex, what are you looking at in this one?
Yeah, I was really high on LA, after the big bye week. I thought LA would be a team that could actually make a run deep here in the playoffs. But now, without Jonathan Quick, who's been now put on IR, that makes things a lot tougher. You can't really just rely on Darcy Kemper and Jack Campbell to be the two guys to get you in what's going to be a really tough Pacific Division race. Kemper has been very familiar with Dallas. Seemed like he always got the starts against Dallas when he was with Minnesota. He's got a decent track record. He's played them more than just about any other team in his career. But I'm looking at the over in this spot. And like I said, LA, their offense has really fallen off, but they've been struggling defensively, and that's not going to get any better with the lack of Quick. And you look at Dallas, who scored 14 goals in their last 3 games, albeit only 2 of those, and one of those games came against the horrible Florida defense. So, we know that there's some offensive capabilities for Dallas, and we could see a bit of offensive explosion for LA, at least something better than what we've seen from the last couple of games. They might be able to at least get 1 or 2 goals. So looking at a 5.5 at a pick 'em price, I think the over is worth a look here tonight.
All right, over in the Kings and Stars there for Alex B. Smith. Just quickly in terms of the extended rest, LA 1-3, Dallas 2-3, LA 2-2 over under. Dallas actually 4-1 to the under, but that's what you're looking at there. And over for Alex in that game. Vegas Calgary 21-22 as we got to hurry along here. No line on this game. This is where I'm fascinated for Vegas. They've been the talk of the NHL for the first half, a magical, incredible first half of the season, leading the Western Conference. But now you got a road-heavy schedule coming up against a lot of decent to good teams in the Western Conference. How are you going to handle it starting tonight on the road against the Calgary Flames? Real good proving ground coming up for the Golden Knights. This is a game I'm not involved in whatsoever, but one of the games I'm very fascinated to see if Vegas can retain the momentum that they had pretty much throughout the entire first half of the season tonight as they visit this Calgary Flames team, which was a little bit up and down going into the break, no question. A little bit inconsistent, the Calgary Flames for sure. But to me, this is going to be where Vegas proves themselves big time as, hey, not only a playoff team in this stretch if they play well, but hey, we're going to be right in the mix for this first seed in the Western Conference for the rest of the way. It starts with this game tonight, and if they're going to be able to maintain that position again, Calgary, it's not like they were rolling going into the break. 4 straight losses, albeit all of them in extra session. 2 overtime and 2 shootout losses against Edmonton, LA, Buffalo, and Winnipeg for this Calgary team going into the break. So they basically needed the break too. We'll see if they're able to bounce back from it and get back in the win column, but not going to be easy against this Vegas team. So again, fascinating game to watch, not one I'm involved in from a betting perspective. And very quickly, Colorado, Vancouver to wrap up the card, 23-24, Vancouver -110, total 5.5 across the board. We've seen Vancouver have one really good game against LA, where LA was not ready to play. They came back the next night. I don't know how on earth you get shut out at home by Buffalo, but you did. That's not a good sign whatsoever. Here's another team that's headed for a sell at the trade deadline. Not a team I'm looking to back in this price range against Colorado. I know Colorado lost a couple of games to break that winning streak, that magical ride they had, but the break came at a good time. Chance for Colorado to recharge, get back on track, and beat a team that, quite frankly, they're better than. They should be able to get the job done against. Yeah, give me Colorado here, -110. Alex B. Smith, what are you on this game?
It's interesting to note, though, that Colorado, as well as they've played, they've struggled against Vancouver over the years. Vancouver has won 5 of the last 6 meetings, and they've won 11 of the last 14 at home against Colorado. But that being said, these two teams haven't played since a year ago. It's the first meeting of this season. And I'm looking at Colorado here, too. Like I said, coming off back-to-back losses after having that great run. Now they're rested from the break. This is a much better Colorado team than what Vancouver's seen the last couple of years, and this is a much worse Vancouver team than what Colorado's seen the last couple of years. So that being said, at a pick and price, I'm looking at the Avalanche tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually surprised that Colorado wasn't at least -120 to 25 in this game, to be honest, but not the case. I mean, even money here. So, yeah, that's enough to get involved with Colorado for me. Andrew McGinnis, what are you involved with here in this game?
Yeah, you just can't really argue with the line that you're getting with Colorado, guys. I mean, they had that massive winning streak, and then they took a loss to Montreal, a 4-2 loss to Montreal, and then a 3-1 loss to St. Louis. But let's not argue the way these two teams have been playing, or the way this Colorado team has been playing. Once again, I have to bring him up. Nathan MacKinnon, pretty much really popping out of his shell this year. I think this is kind of the guy that really he truly is, and I don't think anyone's really realized that yet until this year. How talented he really is, and I think how well he can really carry a team. I think it's kind of interesting that he kind of waited until Duchesne left for him to start coming out of his shell and really exploding offensively. But maybe that's what it takes sometimes when another kind of all-star leader kind of guy leaves the team. You kind of embrace that role yourself and take that on yourself. But this team is just way more experienced right now. I think they're in the mix way more than Vancouver. They're averaging 3.27 goals per game. But not only that, is they've actually been better a lot defensively as well. I think that was one of the main things that helped them throughout their massive winning streak. So in simple terms, I'm on Colorado tonight. I like the way they're looking. Interesting to note, though, Brock Besser, extraordinary weekend here at the All-Star weekend there with the MVP. But I just don't think that there's enough depth and enough talent on that Vancouver team to stop this Colorado team. With the line that we're getting, guys, confident with the Colorado Avalanche tonight. I'll take them on the money line.
All right, Colorado. So everybody in agreement there, and Vancouver, dismal home record, 8-16 on the season. So and it shows you with a record like that, yes, you can get shut out by the Buffalo Sabres. So that's what happened. Terrible loss that was for Vancouver. So we're all on Colorado there. Quickly, best bets to wrap up the show. We're tight on time. Andrew, your best bet.
Yeah, just New York Islanders puck line. Like I said before, I like this spot against the Panthers. I think that as a team that's trending towards the over throughout the entire season, with the stats coming off the All-Star break, I think this is a team that's going to put up high numbers right now against this weak defensive team that's pretty much allowing 4 goals per game in their last 5 or 6 games. So I think this should be an easy cash. You got some plus money. You can get plus 185 at Pinnacle right now. So very good value, and I'm liking the Islanders as my puck line best bet on the night.
All right, Islander puck line best bet. Dana, yours.
If you took 6 as the model number, the last 7 games between Chicago and Nashville have gone under the total. And this is a series that is used to seeing 5s, and now we're seeing 6s. I'll take the under with the 6 tonight.
All right, under for Dana Lane, Chicago, Nashville. Alex B. Smith, best bet.
Stars and Kings over 5.5. Darcy Kemper in 12 starts, 6-6 with a 3.09 goals against average against the Stars, and 9 of the last 13 Stars games at home have gone over the total. So give me the over 5.5 at a pick 'em price.
All right, over for Alex B. Smith, Kings and Stars. For me, Columbus minus 116, best number out there out against Minnesota, and dare them to win a road game. I'm not sure they can. Columbus minus 116, best bet for me. That's going to wrap up the show. Great first show back from the All-Star break. Looking forward to doing this again throughout the entire second half of the season as the push for the playoffs rages on. We'll be back Thursday, 9 a.m. Eastern time for the next edition of the SBR NHL Ice Guys. For Alex, Dana, and Andrew, I'm Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review. Enjoy the Tuesday night card. We'll see you again on Thursday.